Hello everybody and welcome back to Kerbal Space Program, where off camera I have refueled this guy, including his monoprop, so we're now full on fuel, and that will be absolutely fantastic. Our tanker is going to head out... No, why am I retracting solar panels? I wanted to close this shield. Our tanker is going to head out to the Lunar Gateway, and that is indeed our exact destination right now. So let's set the moon as our target. How far off are we on our inclination? It shouldn't be much. Yeah, that should be good enough. And sometime around here, most likely, is when we're going to want to commence this burn. We're going to want this to be, as usual, a retrograde burn, sometime out this way. Well, not a retrograde burn, but a retrograde orbit, sometime out over here. Looks like there or so. Okay. Obviously, we're going to have to toss in a little bit more speed, and we're going to bring this up to be... It doesn't have to be too low. Somewhere around 200 kilometers is probably good enough. So we can just position it about there. Now, with all of this fuel aboard, this tanker is pretty slow to maneuver, and the thrust to weight on just the poodles isn't enough, so we're going to give up a little bit of efficiency and have these mainsails burn us out there. But this will be more than enough fuel to refuel the HLS after Artemis 4. After Artemis 4. Of course, currently the HLS is fully fueled, so we need to get this thing out to the Lunar Gateway at some point. We might as well do it now. So let's warp on around for about 3 minutes or so here. This is a weird way to be facing. Hang on a moment. Something is not right here. Control from here. Okay, so we're going to start this burn in about 50 seconds. We've got some time to turn here. I'm just going to put us at a bit of an angle for solar panel purposes. And we've got about... Well, we started this burn ever so slightly late and a little bit off, but it should be fine. It should be good enough. So we're pulling fuel currently from all tanks simultaneously, which is not exactly the way that I wanted this to work, but it's fine, I guess. And we're going to burn this for about another minute or so. So it's going to be a pretty hefty burn, even with all 6 engines lit. Pretty hefty burn indeed. Our thrust to weight is still below 1, even with the mainsails. There's a lot of mass to this thing. It's difficult to move, no doubt about that. But we shouldn't have the incredibly long burns that we would if we were only trying to run this off of the poodles. So that's good. Even if we had 3 poodles instead of 3 mainsails, I think we would still have significant issues at this point. So that is fine. We've got about 30 seconds left in this burn overall. How would it feel if we physics warped it? Mostly okay is the answer, but it's a little spooky. So we'll just keep it about here for now. We've got about 8 seconds left. And lunar transfer burn shut down now. I overshot it a little bit, but it should be fine. Yeah, this is absolutely okay. I don't mind this at all. So we're going to do a burn around here to circularize. It doesn't matter what altitude we are, as long as we're in orbit of the moon and it's in a reasonably equatorial orbit and it's a retrograde orbit. Those are the things that we care about. So we'll align to this node. That'll be in about 1 day. And we can just get into position. We've got lots and lots of time to do that, of course. So no problem whatsoever on that front. Let's just get into position for the burn, and then we'll warp and see what that ends up looking like. I'm always concerned at this point that we're going to run into that issue where when we warp, it's going to significantly change the orbit. Let's see if that happens here. Yes, it absolutely happened. Cancel that warp. Okay. This is an extremely significant change in our orbit. I don't know why this happens. This is not at all what it was supposed to do. We can work with this. It's not ideal. But we can definitely work with it. The way that we would do this is we would get this into a minimal orbit like this. Then at this apoapsis, we would change our directionality because we're going to be going in a prograde motion here, not a retrograde. We want to be going this way, not this way. So that's going to be a problem, but we can work with this. This is a manageable thing. This is going to add a little bit extra delta V to this, but that's reasonably fine. It changed a little bit again when we warped it there. I don't know why it does that, and I wish it didn't. Hopefully that's something that we don't experience going into KSP2 when we start actually playing series of that game. Because, yikes, that's a huge change. Did we just miss the moon entirely? No, okay, we didn't. Oh, for a moment there I thought that we did. But no, okay, it's fine. So we're going to align to this node. We've got about 50 seconds to do that. That's fine. No problem whatsoever. We can correct this, but we shouldn't have to. But luckily, we should be okay with it. We should have plenty of delta V for this. It'll be a relatively low delta V maneuver to get this done. So we're just going to do 2 seconds, 1 second, 0 seconds, and mark. So at this point, we're just entering a minimal orbit of the moon. We want our apoapsis to be as high as possible for this maneuver. That'll be the most efficient way to do that. Then we're going to need to take this around and go retrograde. So right here is fine, and we're going to do a retrograde maneuver, and we're going to just flip this around, setting our periapsis to be about that 300 kilometer marker. Actually, we could go a little lower. We could go about 200, and that would be fine. And then a braking burn here to circularize is the idea. Okay. This is an extra roughly 200 meters per second that we shouldn't have to put into this, but it's not the biggest of deals. It will be fine. Cool. I suppose what we could do, because this is technically a bug, what we could do is we could make this burn be a free burn in terms of fuel to attempt to correct the bug. And then we'd just have to do this burn and this burn to circularize, and consider that to be roughly equal to what we would have had to do to circularize up over here. That was 175. This is going to be how much? Somewhere around 122. And it would have been about 500. No, I think this is about even then. Okay. We'll not do that. We'll not make this free. We could have. I think that that is a valid thing to do if the math had worked out, but I don't think the math quite works out. I think it works out to be this being roughly even with what we were going to do anyway. So I think it's fine. 3, 2, 1, 0, mark. This is not the most efficient way to do it, for sure. But that's okay. We can work with that. And yeah, we definitely could have gotten this burn for free, but I'm okay with it not being free. We're just going to flip it right on around and position ourselves there. That'll do. Then we're going to circularize this right at about 200 kilometers. Fantastic. So I do think this is a little higher delta V. I would have to go back and check how much delta V the burn would have costed and how much the burn to enter orbit did cost us. I don't know. It's a little bit complicated to figure all of that out. I think we're fine. We should have excess fuel anyway for this, so it's okay. We know that we have some fuel left over at the station, so I'm okay with that, all things considered. Let's warp forward here, and we're now heading in retrograde motion, which is the same direction as the Starship HLS, but the opposite direction as all of these Apollo landers, which is exactly what we want to see. So we're now warping this around, and we're going to rendezvous with the Lunar Gateway. Awkward indeed, but I think it's roughly the same. A little bit higher for going this route, but probably not more than 100 or 200 meters per second would be my guess. And I think we can get 100 to 200 meters per second from the extra slush that we have from the Orion module. So that should be absolutely okay here. Commencing burn now. Fantastic. So that burn is looking very, very good here. This will be good enough. Oh, we're control locked at this moment. I mean, that's mildly awkward. I'm going to clear the control lock just so that we can get rid of this maneuver node. I'm not going to create another maneuver node, though, until we are connected. That's absolutely fine to wait for. Okay, so that was just to clear things up a bit there. And now we can set the Starship HLS as our target, checking our ascending node is close enough, and we want, of course, retrograde here. And we want to pull this in and see what this ends up looking like. Okay, that's pretty far out there. So we'd want to bring it all the way around to about here. Nearly a full orbit. That looks fine. We're not going to have probe connectivity when this burn commences. That's fine. We're just going to be aligned to the node preemptively, and we can go up and down at full throttle. And the actual connection will happen on this side, where we should have radio connection. So that should be okay. We should be turning over to the node here. And it'll be a 30 meter per second burn. I'm thinking about shutting down our mainsails, but I don't think that's necessary at this time. Okay. So there we go. About 1 minute to go here. 50 seconds. 40, 30, 20, 10, and 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0, mark. Okay. That's about the best we're going to get, I feel like. How close are we? 3.2 kilometers. We can fix that. So we're going to come on up over here. We'll warp to... Oh, we have to warp to next maneuver. Awkward. We'll have to do this warp this way because we're currently control locked. We should really get a ComSat over here, but that is, you know, out of scope. So we're going to head up over here. Let's just warp to this position for right now. That seems to have changed our orbit a little bit, but I don't think that's real. I think it'll change back after this warp completes. Okay, so let's let this come in here for about another minute. Yeah, indeed. So 7.8 kilometers with a separation speed of 28.4 meters per second. Okay, so we're going to need to put this in kill rot, and I'm going to... Where are we right now? We should be somewhere over this way. There it is, 12.4 kilometers. Okay, I'm starting up a burn about here, just to get a bit of correction going on. Close enough. Let's switch to relative velocity minus. Okay, so that brings us in to 1.6 kilometers. Looks good. Let's physics warp as we are rotating here. Everything looking good on that front. We're going to need to do a bit of corrective burn out over this way, though, which we might as well do right about now. So we're going to need to get over this way, do a little bit of correction out here. Back over this way ever so slightly. There. Relative velocity minus 9.3 kilometers away. Separation of 2.2 kilometers. Okay, we're going to have some drift here. So let's warp in a little bit. Yep, that's definitely drifting off. As expected. So let's correct that back in. That's going to be out this direction. Very, very gentle burn. Okay, something like that. Now, the main concern at this point is we're going to have more and more drift because we're still pretty slow in terms of our target marker here. So we might want to use RCS to correct this going forward. Let's just let this come in for now. We're probably best off, actually, to let that load in, get to this position here, and then do a correction. The later that we do the correction, or rather the closer to our nearest pass, the better. Okay, at this point, I'm going to use RCS. I'm going to just put this in kill rot. Okay, RCS is barely budging it. So that's not going to be very viable. Cool. So we're going to want to flip around then to be prograde. We're just moving too slowly at this point. So that is the core issue. We're going to need to move to prograde, but this is going to be a little bit dicey because we're going to have to turn it around and move back to retrograde after this burn. So that is going to be a concern for us, for sure. But we need to do a corrective burn on the prograde side here. So we need to get this turned around and be brought into prograde over here. And just bring it out this direction a bit. Something about like that. Now let's flip it to relative velocity minus, and let's see what that's doing. 0.2, that is much, much better. So we'll have to determine where we want to dock this thing, of course. Let's just physics warp as we rotate around. We need to be at the retrograde side, and we need to be there pretty quickly, to be honest. Okay, we're only about 500 meters out right now. We're still turning. We could use RCS for this turn, and I'm going to do so. Okay. We need to commence some sort of braking burn here. That pushes us out away, so I don't think that we're going to collide now. Cool. Just doing a very, very gentle burn at this juncture. Yes, I know we're kind of overshooting the station. Commencing a larger burn. Okay, we need to do this very gently because we're not quite in the exact angle that we want to be. This is a good position, though. I like this positioning. 1.2 meters per second. Just letting us drift into position here. Okay. Kill rot, please. Noted. Okay, I'm going to use RCS to move this over to right here. There we go. And we're going to do a RCS braking burn to bring us down to 0.0. There we go. Cool. So, which docking port are we going to connect to? Well, let's take a quick look at our diagram here. So, looking at the diagram, that is this diagram right here. We're calling this the Spirit Refueler and Logistics Vehicle. It's a very different vehicle than what's here, but this is put into the Habitation and Logistics Outpost on the opposite side of the HLS. Easy enough. So let's definitely do that. That means it goes into this docking port. Let's point at target, and let's grab the Lunar Gateway as well. We will control from here, and set as target, and point at target. And this, of course, is why we wanted these strutted on. Even though we're not going to want those strutted on long term, for now, this will be useful. We're probably going to strut on this as well, because this thing is going to be very unstable if we don't. Okay, so we're getting into position here. We need to figure out how we want to orient this, and I think I want to orient it with the tanks vertical to the station. So that would mean something along the lines of rotating it like so. This will just take up a lot less station space if we do it this way. Okay, putting it about there or so in terms of its rotation. Approximately, anyway. Let's head in at a very low rate of speed. So that's 0.3 meters per second. I'm going to use RCS to adjust that angling. And that should be fairly decent as far as that goes. Okay. And I like our orientation. I think our orientation is good here. So we'll just very gently bring this in, watching for drift. There is some drift happening. That's expected, though. We'll correct that. There we go. And heading in, this should be a pretty clean docking at this point. Now, we can see what's going on with the not the RCS, with the SAS on the station. That's going to create some big problems once this is attached. Smart ASS is now officially off. So the station is just kind of free to tumble at this point. So now what I want to do is I want to pull any fuel that we can out of this. Not out of these tanks, but out of these tanks. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 tanks. Cool. Those are going to go into wherever we need them. So probably it would go into here. But really, this should be held the way it is, I feel like. Until... Yeah. We need to change this around. We need to not do it this way. Okay. So until after the Artemis 4 mission occurs. So what that means is that this fuel that remains here, there's not a huge amount of it, but there is some, needs to be moved into here. Okay. So we're going to do something like that. Cool. So that fuel goes here. This is now completely empty, and that means that we should decouple this. And let that go away. This was never intended to remain here, and away it goes. We now need Bob, or rather Bill, to EVA. And Bill is up over here right now. I'm not sure if he can reach. We're probably going to want to move him over to the Orion capsule for the moment. So we're just going to move him right on down. Up you go onto that Orion capsule. Excellent. I can already feel the frame rate starting to dip, by the way, with the station construction. The good news is it's not going to be much more than this. So that is excellent. What we need here is we need to put a docking port right up over here. And this is the port that the Orion is intended to attach to. So we're going to remove these struts. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Currently, I'm not strutting this together. That is not intended to be strutted long term. We're going to board here. And now the Orion capsule needs to move to here, which we can do. So we're just going to undock here. Actually, before we do this, what do we have for monoprop? Let's refill our monoprop from the refueler, which apparently we can't do at this moment. Okay. That's fine. It's just not showing up. We had that issue before, and we were able to fix it. It's because this tank is open. Okay, that's the problem. I didn't notice that that was still open. Okay, let's pin this open. Let's refuel that with monoprop from our fuel tanker. There we go. No problem whatsoever there. And let's undock this guy. We just need to move it. So we'll undock that, and we're just going to... Hang on, not RCS. I want to be here. RCS on. Move slightly back. Put this in kill rot. And let's move our RCS here. Okay. I want to be having this set as our target. And be in target mode. So we're going mostly this direction right now, which is going to be virtually an up movement. Okay, that seems reasonably fine. I'm just going to let us drift a little bit further here. Just to have a little bit of clearance. There we go. Let's bring that back a bit. That's a bit too much. Let's just go forward slightly so that we can hopefully see our vector here. Much better. Okay. I'm going to want to go a little bit down as well so that we're drifting out this way. We're not doing a turn yet. I want to keep these vectors a little bit cleaner. So that'll be fine. We're just moving it to its final quote-unquote docking port. It's not really its final docking port, but it will do. Okay, a little bit further here, but we're very, very close. I'm just going to move until this guy is nearly in line. Then we'll bring it back and bring it to a halt. It's looking decent. I think we're a little too high, but that's fine. We can work with that. Okay. Bringing it to a halt. There we go. RCS off. I want to point at target right now. We'll see if we end up pushing it. We do not. That's pretty good. We're definitely too high. That is going to be, in this orientation, the right vector. Okay. Sounds good. So we're just going to bring this down, and then we'll compose this vector together fairly soon here with a forward vector, and that'll be absolutely fine. Okay. We're just going to bring this right on in. We're a little bit off on that directionality, but it didn't matter. Okay, beautiful. So we are docked. That is perfect. So the Orion is now in its preferred location. So these two docking ports here are going to be utilized for... Well, one of them is going to be empty and is going to be able to be used for whatever we need it to be. The other one is going to be utilized by a crew airlock. And the crew airlock will not be launched until... Artemis 6. So the refueling module is supposed to be brought in with Artemis 5. We've kind of already done it a little bit early. We've done things a little bit out of order here. And this is definitely not the refueling module that was planned by NASA, that's for sure. But it's fine. It will definitely do the trick for us for now. So at this point, it is time to put a cut in here. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. And next episode, it's time for Artemis 4. We're going to be landing our HLS on the moon once more, and it'll return back this time to the Lunar Gateway, where it will immediately be refueled by whatever fuel we have available here. We'll see if that's enough, and we'll also, of course, have to send this guy right on back to Kerbal. You can leave your offerings to the engagement gods in the form of likes, comments, subscribes, and bell ringings, and a very special thank you to all of the channel members for making this video possible, including ALS Gamer, Shadow Wolf, Kentogan, Ali Lee, Upper Cumberland Gamers, Nick Smarty, Dimitri H, Punching the Microphone, Soccerman12 UK, and all the rest. And of course, you. Thank you for watching. If you'd like to support the channel, you can click the join button down below the video, and as always, I will see you all next time.